Diane Carson, the electric quilter, and I have been long arm quilting for 20 years on this Gamble machine with no stitch regulator and no computer attached to it. I would definitely wash backings. They come with sizing in them, and that if that's washed out, the fabrics are softer, they're not going to shrink later when you do wash the quilt, and they're going to make your stitches go better, smoother on the back of your quilt. Around the edges of the quilt that you bring, I'd like at least 6 inches all the way around, top, bottom, both sides. On the sides, then there's no pulling when I attach it to the machine. If I've got extra, the pull is right at the edge, not a little ways in. On the top, it takes that much to attach it. It takes 3 or 4 inches for sure to attach it to the top. And at the bottom, you never know how much a quilt's top is going to stretch. So you don't want to be short on the bottom. And in the end, there's always that extra fabric to use for your binding. Yes, a good quality 100% cotton backing is always the best. Some of the other things that people sometimes use have too high a thread count, and our machines will skip through the stitches because there isn't enough room for a needle and a thread to make that many stitches in a row if it's not got room to do it. So if you have something with 600 or 700 thread count, it won't let the needle and thread go through, and so it'll skip stitches. Now, time is money. So if I skip stitches and I have to stop and go back and rip out back to where it skipped a stitch and start stitching again, it's costing you more than if you started out buying good quality cotton. There's preferences, about 3 that we like as long arm quilters. One is 100% cotton. Another is an 80-20 blend, which is 80% cotton and 20% polyester. And another is 80% cotton and 20% wool. And that's beginning to be my favorite. But a high percentage of long armers use the 80-20 poly blend. So this is the 100% cotton by Dream Cotton. And this is the Hobbs 80-20 polyester cotton polyester blend, and this is the cotton wool blend by Hobbs. Now there's also totally all wool, 100%. You get a lot of loft with that and a lighter quilt. If there's wool in them, they probably won't crease so much as you fold them up and put them away, and when you get them out, you won't see as much crease. Now today's battings are not like those of your grandmothers. They're all come completely washed and ready to put in a quilt. You could let them sit overnight and just expand a little bit if they were done up tight in a bundle. And after washing, when you're done and you do the quilt and you want to wash it, there's very little difference between any of the battings. There's a chart here that says one will shrink the 3 inches in the whole width, or one will shrink 4 inches at the very most when it's washed. And a lot of people like that look after the quilt is done. They want it to look a little bit antique, and you don't have to worry about anything with today's battings. So a lot of long arm quilters are using polyester thread to quilt their quilts. It's probably a good idea to piece a 100% cotton quilt with 100% cotton thread, and that works well. But when you get to the quilting, I don't in my opinion, I don't think either one matters, whether you're using cotton or polyester, except for my machine. It likes the polyester because it's a low lint thread, and it comes with pre-wound bobbins, so I don't have to stop while I'm quilting and wind some bobbins. The polyesters have got a bit of a sheen, which I like, but there's also polyesters that are of a matte finish. So the preferences could be discussed with your long armor, what you like and what you don't like. This in the superior thread is a 50 weight, and in the glide is a 50 weight, which I use most of the time. I like that fine a thread. Sometimes I will use a 60 weight, which is even finer. There are cottons that are 40 weight, and you don't want a lot of buildup if you have to backtrack on this, and if you do quilt with the 40 weight, it does build up quite fast and you see a lot of thread in a pile. One of the reasons as an example, I started out by making a little 5-inch or half-inch cut here and then ripping so that I would get a square back, and it ended up that it was off by 3.5 inches, and I have seen it up to 12 inches, and that won't help make your quilt hang straight and square when the quilt is finished, because it'll go on the machine crooked, and at the end it might come up short. You remember back when your grandmother bought fabric and she said, "Here, hold this corner," and she walked away with the opposite corner. That's what she was doing to get that fabric square so she could cut out and make your pajamas with it. And that's important that you have square fabric. And by ripping it, you get it square on the machine. So pressing is very important when you bring a quilt to a long armor for both her and your quilt, because if it's pressed properly, you will get a better quilt back. She can do much better stitch in the ditch and quilting on it if it's pressed properly. And this is an example of a very good pressed back, ready for your long armor. One more thing with a back that has to be pieced. Make a inch seam to piece it together, and then cut off the 1/2 inch of the selvage. The selvage will not stretch, you'll never break it, but it will shrink a lot more than the rest of the fabric will when you wash it.